Well, Chimeze joins me now on the program via Skype, and she's going to be talking about what's actually happening in Washington. Good morning, Chimeze.
Good morning, Harriet. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Could you tell us how the meetings are coming? What actually happened yesterday?
Well, it's coming out very well. You know, starting from Monday, that was on the 7th. What has been happening is just the preliminary meeting and on various issues as it concerns them. Well, yesterday, the World Bank president actually organized a World Press Conference where he intimated the media there on the issues they will be looking at this year's meeting. And one of the major areas they really want to talk about is the area of poverty. You know, their concern is how to eradicate poverty. Actually, the target to eradicate poverty, or rather reduce poverty by 9% by 2020. That is their interim target for now. So they are asking that all hands should actually be on deck to ensure that this poverty is eradicated or relatively reduced, because we actually don't know how poverty can actually be eradicated completely. So, but they are trying to see how they can actually reduce it. And yesterday, of course, they released a report which says that about 400 million of the world's extreme poor, that is about 2010, were actually children. And that actually calls for concern. So they are calling for urgent action to really eradicate poverty. And when the finance minister, Nigerian finance minister, Dr. Pt.2, addressed the press on some of the issues they discussed, the Commonwealth countries. She actually talked about poverty eradication, and she said countries would have to focus on infrastructure, building their infrastructure, and she actually talked about what Nigeria has been doing so far in terms of building our infrastructure, especially in the area of power. Again, the IMF also, you know, it's a kind of a joint meeting, the World Bank and IMF. While World Bank is focusing on poverty, the IMF is focusing on the global economy. And of course, they say that the recession, where the global economy is actually coming out of the recession. And what they are seeing now is like a transition, and a positive one at that. However, they suppose that the central banks of the various countries should actually work together in terms of monetary policy to ensure they are able to manage this transition so that we don't go back to another recession.
Okay, I know that the meeting is going to continue today. Now, what will be the focus of today's meeting? Because we know that the CBN governor will also present a paper on banking reforms and development.
Well, basically today, the meeting, most of the meetings are going to be closed door. But this morning, I guess the president, the World Bank president, is expected to actually brief the plenary on the expectations for next year, what their plans are for next year. Most of the meetings are going to be, closed door, after which now the various representatives of each country can now address their people on some of the areas that were discussed as it concerns them.
Well, Chimeze, it's 10 days since the U.S. government partial shutdown. And we know that you're there. You've been there for a couple of days now. Can you just tell us what the mood is like?
Well, here in the U.S., it seems that nothing is happening, but we know that something is happening. Actually, most people are not happy about what is going on. When you tune into most of the TV stations or radio stations, it's that issue that they are discussing. But what the U.S. government is trying to do is that basically the essential workers, those on the essential duties are, of course, are at work. And what the government has done was to kind of hire contract staff, like from the private sector, to do most of these essential duties, like the accounts, being able to pay of the labor. But when you talk to some people on the street, they will tell you, well, they don't know what is going to happen. They are waiting till the end of the month to see if they're going to go home with their pay. But those who work with the federal government are still at home, really, except those essential duties and essential duties.
Well, thank you so much, Chimeze, for joining us this morning on the program. And of course, we'll be waiting to get your report later on the day on how proceedings actually went, even though most of them are going to be closed door. But I know you're definitely going to send something in for us. Do take care of yourself and enjoy your day.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Well, I've been speaking with our correspondent in Washington. She's actually attending the IMF World Bank meeting, where we have financial ministers and the central bank, governors of central banks from all over the world converging. And back here in Nigeria, we're still looking at the issues that are going to be possibly raised at that meeting. And I'm speaking with the head of research of DGL PLC, Femi Ademola. And Femi is still very much in the studio with me. Good morning, and thank you again, Femi, for staying with us. I have no idea why. Well,
welcome.
The time difference, I guess. You know, they are 5 hours behind us. So she says that the economy is not virtually at a standstill. We still have essential services being run and all of that. But the government has hired private contractors. Will this not incur more debt for them, which is what they seem to be wanting to run away from in the first place?
I'm just hearing it from her, like you are hearing at the same time. I don't understand. In fact, immediately she said that what I'm going to say is that we're going to pay for that.
Exactly.
Except we're saying that part of the contract they had before, existing contract, means that they can actually debt into such area. Or there are some, maybe there's some vote that can be spent for emergency. That's not, I wouldn't know exactly, but I'm just saying what I can think about. In Nigeria, I know that if this happened, the only thing we can do is that we can maintain essential services based on last year's timeline until the budgeting piece is resolved. We expect that that's what should have happened in their own case as well. But anyway, I'm not sure how that's going to be done, except there's an extra budget, or again, those contractors can actually provide services expecting to be paid later on when the budget is signed. So it's one of those things.
Well, she also spoke about what most of them, especially the World Bank president yesterday, was speaking about poverty reduction and promoting job creation programs. How would you assess the impact of the World Bank now on the Nigerian economy?
Well, again, Nigerian economy is very, very difficult to analyze, I must say. A lot of things that are happening there, they're not so feasible, not so physically there that you can see. We know that World Bank has partnered a lot with Nigeria to provide quite a number of services in terms of health, in terms of education, in order to meet the Millennium Development Goals. But, when we look at the figures that we have, the level of poverty, the way it is increasing, both acute and just relative poverty, it's very easy to say maybe the World Bank doesn't even do anything in Nigeria. And since Nigeria is even classified as a lower middle income or middle income, as the case may be, Nigeria might not really be big on their radar. They might be looking at those that are even lower in the wrong.
Is this the same thing with the IMF? Does the IMF also have this, do you get the same impression that that's how the IMF also sees Nigeria, the same way the World Bank is looking at Nigeria?
Well, like I said, IMF's role is quite different. IMF's role is to look at monetary policy most of the time to see how it helps the economy, whereas World Bank is more developmental. World Bank will give you money, lend money directly to you to do this, do that. But IMF will come around with other conditions. Okay, fine. Which money you want to get, we expect it to be done in this way if you have approached IMF to do it. It's possible, but I must say that in terms of work that IMF is doing, in terms of advising, writing report on Nigeria and assessing Nigeria, they're actually frontal about what they think our macroeconomic policy is, or our monetary policy, how we're running it. They're actually frontal about it. I am not saying that because World Bank is saying Nigeria in the middle income, making them not to focus on it. That's not exactly my point. I'm just insinuating that. Because we know they do, a lot of times you see some samples, World Bank in Nigeria doing this, doing that, but we are not feeling it in statistics. The statistics of poverty eradication is not going down. You know, so that's why you're looking at it and say you want to eradicate poverty, but it doesn't seem to be translating to Nigeria. Is it that we are not doing enough, or our statistics is just not there?
We know the challenges there are globally right now in Europe and in the US. What lessons can Nigeria learn from all of what is happening now for the long term?
Well, there are so many things to it. Again, like some economists will say, or some people, when they're joking, they say, in the long time, we're all dead. Now, the most important thing is, how do we take this step further? Yeah, in the long term, there are so many economic models that have been tested elsewhere. If you hear the Christine Lagarde about a month ago, she said something about the fact that the unconventional monetary policy has actually helped the global crisis than the conventional policy. That's one thing that I consider we have to learn from that. In Nigeria, we have done that as well. How well is it a different ball game? The conventional policy of open market operation, interest rate targeting, exchange rate management, financial stability through the banking system, it didn't work. The US reduced interest rate to near zero, right? In UK, interest rate, benchmark rate today is 0.5%. It wasn't helping the economy at that time. So what they need to do is to do some other things. Intervention in the economy, bailout fund, quantitative easing, bond buyback, and all sort of things that you see them getting.
I just got this tweet from Ighodaro Alonge. He says, I would like to ask your guest, with the high growth rate we've been posting, why haven't we seen any meaningful developments?
Again, like I said earlier, I said statistics and reality, at times they are two different things. Then again, when you look at the growth we are talking about, where is the growth coming from? That's exactly where we have to look at. The growth in Nigeria, half of it is coming from agriculture. Now, if the questioner would ask them, is he involved in agriculture? Probably not. And that's where the growth is coming from. Agriculture contributes about 40 to 42% and is growing about 4 to 6%. That means agriculture alone is contributing between 2 and 3% of the 6% that we are brandishing. And that's what it is. Then the other one is trade. And you know that in terms of trade, Nigeria is huge in trade. We import a lot and we consume a lot. Now, that cannot translate to anything because we are not actually producing. The guys that are supposed to really give us that feasible growth that we're looking for is the manufacturers. But unfortunately, they are not there yet. The agriculture is helping, at least it's feeding us. But there are a lot of challenges, structural challenges that's making us not to see the feasibility of this growth. Those are the things that we need to remove. If we can remove infrastructure challenges, structural reforms put in place and done properly, we will grow by 10% or more.
Well, thank you so much, Femi, for joining us on the program today. It's been very interesting having you.
Thank you.
Well, I've been speaking with the head of research at BGL PLC, Femi Ademola, and we've been taking a look at the ongoing World Bank IMF meeting and the global growth and challenges and what they possibly will be discussing at the meeting. And thank you also, Ighodaro Alonge, for sending in. Appreciated. Of course, comments are always welcome. After now, the conversation will still continue. But that's the program for today. I'm Harriet Agbeni. Thank God it's Friday.